Welcome to this week's Talking Codswallop. I am Gemma.
I'm James.
And we have got a special guest with us this evening, and we're super, super excited. So thank you ever so much for this guest. I have got a little intro for you, so don't worry. Our guest this week shot to fame at the tender age of 19 with a song that brings smiles and air punches to the world. But he is more than just one song. He's a singer, a songwriter, an actor, a podcaster. James would actually call him a multi-talented threat. So please all join us by throwing our metaphorical pants at the one and only Chesney Hawkes.
Hey guys.
Hey.
Hello.
That was a nice intro. Thank you.
Thank you.
Why wouldn't you throw your actual pants? That's what I want to know. Why do they have to be metaphorical?
I can answer that because for Gemma it probably wouldn't have been a problem, but I worked out if I threw my pants in the direction, it would more than likely knock my camera off the monitor. So
fair enough. Okay, well, let's leave the pants out of it then, shall we?
Yeah.
Could have been messy.
Yeah, because I was actually planning on throwing some underwear at you, but if James wasn't on board, then I felt a bit silly doing it. So
okay. I've got enough underwear, so you don't need to give me yours.
No, absolutely not. So how are you doing on this fine Monday, morning for you, isn't it?
Yeah, good. I'm up and about to knocking out podcasts. I've got my own to do straight after, as soon as I've done yours. So yeah, it's nice to be home. This is a 1 week at home that I rarely get these days. So it's nice to be home with the family.
Yeah.
Well, some of the family. A lot of my family are actually different parts of the world, but at least I'm with my wife and my dogs and one of my sons.
Oh,
Good.
Yeah, absolutely. And so obviously we've got a few questions to sort of ask you. And also just to check as well, I should have done this before. How long have you got, by the way?
Oh, look at that. I managed to blur my background. I think that's better. I don't know, maybe 40 minutes. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Yeah, that's no problem at all. Yeah, so it's just I'll keep an eye on the clock then.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I'm just curious, where does the name Chesney actually come from?
I was named after a guy called Chesney Allen, who was a singer and comedian in the 40s. He was in a comedy troupe called the Crazy Gang.
Okay.
And he had a very famous comedy duo with a guy called Bud Flanagan. So they were called Flanagan and Allen. And Chesney Allen was kind of like the straight man of the two.
Okay.
They had a hit record, actually. One really big song called "Underneath the Arches." I don't know if you know that song.
I'm not familiar. No.
I'll have to be honest, no.
Arches, very old song, from. He was my granddad's favorite. So yeah, I was named after him, Chesney Allen.
Oh, and so you were always destined to have at least one hit, but you are, like I said in the intro, you are more than one hit.
I guess so.
So I always like to ask, where does your story begin? Where does the Chesney Hawkes story begin? Tell us a bit about your early life.
Well, I grew up in a very rock and roll household. My dad was a rock star. He was in the Tremolos.
Mm-hmm.
Very big band in the 60s and 70s. So, my upbringing was very kind of liberal and crazy rock and roll. Dad's friends were all 60s superstars and guitars propped up in every corner and all that kind of stuff. So I kind of grew up in that kind of crazy rock and roll world. And, Dad always says I came out singing. So I don't know if it was destined, but like I never had any other inclination to do anything else, and so music was very much I guess front and center in the household. My brother's a drummer, my sister's a singer as well, and we were never going to become accountants, put it that way.
Yeah. Does your mum ever sort of get, well, she probably thinks you're the favorite in a way because you at least did some of the acting side of things.
Oh, I see. Yeah, my mum was
Yeah.
also an actress. Is that what you're getting at? Yeah,
Yeah, sorry,
So,
yeah.
so she had quite a lot of success as a young actress. She was in The Young Ones with Cliff Richard, and she did quite a few little bits in things like Budgie, and she starred in a film called The Haunted House of Horror. And she did all sorts of things, and she was also one of the Golden Girls on a show called The Golden Shot, which some of your older listeners would know. I would listen. We don't have favourites, do we? That's not possible.
My mum does. It's not my brother. Well, it depends who she's talking to. She always says, "Yeah, I'm her favourite daughter, and my brother's her favourite son."
Well, yeah, there you go. I always say that to my daughter as well.
Yeah, it gets a bit tricky though if you've got two sons. So to say you're exactly. My favourite son.
I say you're my favourite son called Casey.
There's always a way around it.
So it's almost like you kind of did a bit of a mind read of what my next question was going to be, because obviously your father was in the industry. It might sound like an odd question, but were you aware of how big he was when you were younger? Or was he just like, oh, his daddy just does something that's musical? And
well, I think there was probably a time when I started to realize that, my family's not like a normal family in that respect. That Dad was, he was famous. And people used to recognize him in the streets and stuff like that. And I do remember, and I was probably about 8 or 9 years old, asking him, how famous were the Tremolos? And I remember asking that question. I was like, were they like as big as the Beatles? And he's like, oh, we were bigger than the Beatles.
That's a good dad answer.
I know, and I always remember that, and like years later when I realized, oh, right. So maybe he was like, he was playing with me there a little bit. But, I mean, they were a huge band, but like obviously,
yeah, they were.
No one's the Beatles,
Yeah. But they were. Am I correct in thinking that the Tremolos were signed to Decca over the Beatles?
Yes, back in the early days, Decca. I guess the Beatles and the Tremolos auditioned on the same day or something like that, and Decca chose the Tremolos over the Beatles. And I honestly, I don't know what their reasoning was, except for I did hear that they liked the Tremolos because they were a London-based band, and it was going to be cheaper for them to have them come down and put them up and stuff, like they wouldn't need accommodation, things like that. So it could have literally just been, where they were from.
Could well be, but they were very, very good. So, Gemma, I'll hand over to you for the next question.
Oh, so we're taking it in turns, but so don't. But yes, I was going to say, obviously you have fame so young. What was it like, sort of coping with the good and bad press at the time? And also, can I just congratulate your dad for pouring a pint over Piers Morgan's head as well?
Sure, you can congratulate me for that.
Yeah.
Although I didn't do it. My dad did it.
Congratulate your dad.
Him.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, apologies. I've got a bit of a cold at the moment, so if it's not coming across properly, I do apologize. But yeah,
that's okay. Now, talking about my dad, you asked how I coped with the good and the bad side of the press. That was your question, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Now, my dad had been through all of that, obviously. So, I have lasting memory of him giving me this one piece of advice, which was, don't believe any of it. Mm-hmm. You don't believe the good stuff. You don't believe the bad stuff. You keep neutral because none of it's real. So, I mean, I did have very, very, good family unit to kind of keep me together with that kind of stuff. And at the time, I feel like it didn't get in, the bad stuff, as it were. But, as time goes on, you realize that, these things do, infiltrate past your thick skin that you think you had. And perhaps you have to go back and, work on these things and realize that, that wasn't normal. And fame is not normal. It's very unnatural and very weird state to be in, because most of the time, you're dealing with people that think that they know you, and have a certain, I don't know, in their own mind, a kind of a version of you that may not actually be real, shall we say?
Yeah.
So that piece of advice was really good for me, and has helped me all the way through my life. But it's also kind of, I've passed that on to the young artists that I've worked with over the years, coming into this business, because it's so true. None of it matters. It's all unreal, and you have to take everything that you read with the pinch of salt, whether it's glowing reviews and love, or the haters coming at you.
Yeah, because I found myself, because obviously I did a bit of a deep dive. I didn't, do a massive dive. Don't worry. I'm not your new favorite stalker or anything like that. Don't worry. But it's, like I found myself getting really kind of angry with all, like with certain ones that I read or whatever. Obviously the positive stuff was good. But, I was like, well, how can you be so mean about some, one person? There's just no need to be mean about people.
I do think that these days it's harder for artists because I didn't have to deal with social media, which is you can be anonymous and mean, which I think is a very bad combination.
Yes.
It's part, it comes part and parcel with that, with fame, and which I said before is it's a very unnatural state to be in, but you're not going to please everyone, and you're not going to be everybody's cup of tea. I'm doing is making music, and I'm making art, and one man's meat is another man's poison, and some people are going to love you and some people are going to hate you. And that's what comes with it. I'm afraid that's just, you have to kind of roll with those punches, and try not to let the kind of more nasty ones get in.
Yes. I think that's a really good positive takeaway from that, to be honest.
Very good way of looking at it. Very good way of looking at it. I wanted to ask you, obviously, you were only 19 when you were casting, Buddy's Song. What was the whole casting process like behind that?
Well, actually, I was only 17 during that process. Because these things take a long time, so when I first auditioned for Buddy's Song, I was only 17. And it was literally an open casting call, hundreds of boys, like an X Factor type of thing, I guess, without the TV cameras. And I just auditioned, just joined the back of the queue. And, the stars aligned for me, really. I was very lucky to be right for that role. I could possibly have been Roger's son, I was the right age. I could play guitar, I could sing, I could play keyboards. I'd never acted before in my life, but the character was quite similar in a way to me, a young singer-songwriter. And I mean, it was weird how many similarities there were between the character Buddy, and me, like just silly little things, like Buddy's mother was called Carol. My mother's named Carol.
Yeah.
In the film, Buddy's father managed his career for a little bit, and obviously that same thing for me. My father managed me in my early days. I don't know. It was just kind of like I am a believer in fate to a certain extent. We have, but I do think that we kind of make our own destiny. But in that particular instant, I think it was just one of those moments where it was meant to be, and the stars aligned for me.
And did you have any, you mentioned, obviously, you got to work with Roger Daltrey playing your father. Did you have any trepidation about working with somebody like Roger Daltrey's magnitude?
No, not at all. I always had people around me, my dad's friends that were famous and had success, and so throughout my whole life, I never found fame weird. I never found that kind of success intimidating or anything like that. Obviously Roger is a legend, and through this whole process, I got to meet all sorts of people. Pete Townsend was at that first at the the casting when I got through to some of the further rounds. And I had to play guitar in front of Pete Townsend. That was quite nerve-wracking, actually.
Yeah.
But,
I can understand. I can appreciate that might be slightly tense.
Yeah, but he was lovely, and he's such a lovely man. And I've actually worked with Pete, since then, in a different way. I've done some vocals for him, and he's a lovely man. So yeah, I wasn't like completely intimidated or anything. But Roger's, he's lovely, and we're still staying in contact now.
Brilliant. Now I am going to come to the question I'm sure you expect to ask, which is about the song "The One and Only." So that is obviously used within the film. How much input did you get in with regard to other bits of music that were in the film? And was "The One and Only" already in place? Do you know?
I actually, they were very cool. The production company for the film, and management company, and obviously there's a lot of cooks involved in making a film, especially a film like that where there's, an album to be made, and so they were very, very cool with me. And as I said, I was very young, but they asked if I wanted to write for the project, which I did. And ended up getting, a few songs on that album, which I think, looking back, was very kind of, I'd say forward thinking on their behalf, utilizing a young boy to write some of the songs, especially the one that was going to play Buddy's Buddy. Kind of, some of those songs came from me. I mean, lyrically, they all came from Nigel Hinton, who wrote the screenplay and the book, and he wrote all the lyrics. So, some of them came from me musically, and I was very lucky to have that kind of freedom to be able to do that. But The One and Only didn't come along until much later on. We'd already made the film. All the songs from the film were already on the album. The record label just looking for potential other songs, a couple of other songs maybe as a single or whatever. And that's when we discovered The One and Only. And my real driving force behind wanting to record that song was to get to meet Nick Kershaw. Because I was a huge fan as a teenager.
I can dig that.
Yeah. I mean, Nick's amazing. Human Racing's one of my favorites still of all time, that album. So I was just excited about the thought of possibly meeting Nick. And, it nearly didn't happen, to be honest with you, because we brought my dad found the song, and we brought the cassette. Do you remember those?
Yes.
To Abbey Road, where we were recording. And we put it on Studio 3, and Roger was there. There was a bunch of the film producers were there, the record label. I mean, all sorts of people there. And it kind of went down like a lead balloon, really. They were like, nah, it's not really kind of in keeping with the rest of the songs. And yeah, not sure. And so I went home that day kind of a little bit dejected and thinking, I'm not going to get to meet Nick, am I? But I guess they rethought. The A&R man called over the weekend and said, yeah, I've been listening to this song. It's got something. Let's put the boy's vocal on it, And so I found myself back at Abbey Road that week and got to meet Nick, and well, rest history, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And it certainly is. And now, excuse me, I also wanted to ask, you had to do a music video for it, which had the singer Saffron in it and future Homes Under the Hammer presenter Lucy Alexander in it as well.
That's right.
So it's interesting when you see who else is in music videos. What memories do you have of making that?
Well, a guy called Willie Smacks was the director who went on to work with Take That on a lot of their stuff. I mean, he's very, very successful video director, and a fantastic guy that I'm still in contact with now. Funnily enough, he's just a really lovely guy. The memories I have of making it, obviously, meeting Safi. Well, back then I knew her as Sammy Sprackling. As before, she was known as Saffron, and of course, years later, she went on to form Republica, and and she was ready to go, as it were. And so, I hadn't seen Safi for years. I mean, decades. And I was doing a gig at Butlins. Where were we? I think we were up in Skegness, and they were on after us, and it was the first time I'd seen her forever. And back then, Sammy and I became quite close. Like we were friends, and I got her into the studio and was recording some of my songs with her. And it was one of the first times she'd ever been in a studio. And I just had great memories of that. And, we just kind of lost touch. And I followed her career with I was so interested to see how she was doing. But then the day when we bumped into each other, she was just the most emotional moment. It was great. Yeah. We were both kind of had tears in our eyes. We're like, oh my God, it's so good to see you. And so funny enough, she was a guest on our podcast last week. And we're talking about maybe, working again together. And you said about Lucy Alexander, who was also in the One and Only video, has gone on to be a TV presenter. She's now doing Homes Under the Hammer, as you said. We stayed in contact via Twitter. I haven't actually seen her for a long time, but I'd say we're Twitter mates.
It's brilliant that you've managed to stay in contact with people, because certainly I'm sure in your line of work, it's quite easy to meet someone and then never ever have contact with them again. So that's really nice to hear that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you meet a lot of people, but you know the good ones, and the ones that are meant to stick around. They do, And Saffron is definitely one of those people. She's a beautiful person, and also incredibly charitable, and I wish her all the luck in the world, because I just love her to death. She's great. And I love her voice. I love her kind of spirit. She's got a bit of a punk heart, Yeah. Her heroes are people like Toyah and Kate Bush and Stevie Nicks. She's a powerful woman in the music industry, and we need more of those.
Yeah, agreed. And I quite like the sort of punk rock and metal kind of side of things as well myself. So I know what you mean with regards to, like, it's quite nice to have more female representation in those sort of fields as well.
Of course. And there's an amazing fraternity out there that where would we be without Kate Bush? Where would we be without these people? And Saffron has held that mantle, and she still is holding that mantle and still making great music, and representing and using her fame for incredibly good causes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Before you just say something, I have a confession to make. Gemma doesn't know I'm going to say this, which is there was a period when I was going out with a girl, and I was in a bar, and I had, I was going to get a drink, and I had, longer hair than I have now, and I had Chesney Hawkes One and Only shouted at me by somebody. there was a similarity in look. My girlfriend at the time, who was younger than me, not to sound harsh, but she was, as I said, younger than me. She wasn't entirely sure who you were. So because she said, why are they saying Chesney Hawkes? I said, well, he's a very handsome, very talented musician. And without missing a beat, she looked at me and said, so why are they comparing you to him then? Which came back to me as we were preparing to the interview with you.
You're a very handsome young man.
I mean, no compliment for me. All right, fine. Let's move on then.
Well, yeah, until you come up with a story like that, Gemma,
Well, I have got a few stories. Don't you worry. So I'm going to sort of do the next question, but, I don't know why I keep saying that, actually. Do you know what? It's doing my head in. I think it's because, initially I was a little bit nervous, and now I'm just like whittering instead.
Well, that's what post-production is about, right? You can always edit stuff in and out, can't you?
Exactly. And I'm the editor, so, James's story is gone. For some reason, he's gone.
That's cut, yeah.
Yeah. Any compliments you've given him, gone. So with regards to the term one hit wonder, how do you feel about that term? Is it something that sort of gets on your nerves a bit, or is it?
You cut out at the beginning. Did you?
Sorry.
I presume that you were talking about the one-hit wonder term. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
I can ask it again. That's fine. Yes. So it's like, how do you feel about the term one-hit wonder? Yeah.
I mean, it's not something that I would have liked to have had following me around for my whole career.
Yeah.
But I understand why people, put me in that bracket. Most people know me for one song. That's fine, But what does tend to come with that is that people think that's all you have.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's very often followed up with, well, didn't he only have one song, or some people that are, would hear that I'm doing a gig or whatever, and I'm playing doing an hour and a half with my band or whatever, and they're like, well, what does he do? The same song 10 times.
I know.
It's that kind of attitude that kind of comes with it that's annoying. I actually don't mind it when people are respectful. It's fine. Sometimes these are the kind of things you have to take with fame, and you get pigeonholed by these little phrases and what's funny about it to me is, I sometimes when people are, ask me about that song and ask me about that phrase, I was like, well, how would you like to be defined by 6 months of your life back when you were 19? How would you like that?
Yeah. Exactly, because that's what I'm not very good at math, but what was that, about 30 odd years ago, something like that?
Yeah, 32 years ago now, I guess, getting on.
Yeah. I mean,
we are all a rich tapestry, and we make incredible things in our lives, and especially those that are creative. And so, I never stopped making music, and I made music before that. I made music after that, and I'm still putting out records, and I'm still touring. I try to kind of like, if anybody is actually interested, to show them that there is more to me than just the one song. I'm very, very proud of that record. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, I look back on it with fondly, and, it's a great record, and it went off and kind of made its own connections with people, which has nothing to do with me in a way. And I get messages from people to say it was, played at my brother's funeral, or it was, it was the first dance at my wedding, or it was the first record I ever bought, or, or you were my mum's favorite, or even worse, your nan's favorite. It has happened, I tell you, it has happened.
And also, it's the go-to karaoke song as well. So, have you ever walked into like a pub or a nightclub, or not nightclub, but a pub kind of thing, or a karaoke bar, and heard somebody singing the one and only, like really,
or murdering
deaf?
it? Yeah, of course.
Massacring it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. I've had that before, for sure.
Yeah. But no, just to say, I definitely don't ask that question in the sense to sort of pigeonhole you. Definitely not.
Oh, I know you don't. As I said, I don't mind when you talk about it in a respectful and kind of intellectual way. It's a very different conversation than just saying, "Oh, what's it like only having one song?" I mean, the different energy behind it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, shut up, everybody's horrible.
Yeah, bugger off, you lot. Otherwise, I'm going to set Gemma on you. And you don't want that, believe me, right, James?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a fate worse than death, I can tell you.
Shut up, you. Both of you.
I think you've already almost answered my next question, because you've already said like you've had a good relationship working with Nick Kershaw. But obviously, the one and only was written by him. Was it ever frustrating for you that you were so heavily linked to someone else, to something that's written by somebody else?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I'm such good friends with Nick. I could never feel any kind of jealousy or anything like that. Towards my friend. There's so many songs that I, as a songwriter, you wish you'd written. You know what I mean? One and Only is probably one of them. It's a very, very clever song. Very, obviously it's done very well. And it's, as a musician, for those musicians friends out there, it's a very, very complicated, different song. It's not a normal pop song. It's written in 4 keys for a start, which is unheard of. But classic Nick Kershaw, he shows his genius in that song. Anyone that's kind of like says they can just work that out and just play it, nah. You've got to know what you're doing with that song. But no, it's there's no frustration there. I've written many songs that I'm very proud of, some with Nick, over the years. We still write songs together. I've got a new album coming out which has a couple of Nick songs co-written with myself anyway. So no, I don't feel any frustration there about that at all. I'm very proud of what we achieved with that record.
Excellent. Good. I mean, two big things that I wanted to say, and I'm not blowing smoke, as they say, which is as soon as no, seriously, 2 things. When I mentioned that we had you on as a guest, everyone that I mentioned it to, because sometimes when you'll say you've got a certain person on, you can see there's a bit of fake interest. Oh yeah, that'll be great. Immediately interested that you were on, and really happy to hear that we had you on as a guest.
That's nice.
And that's loving the song, the one and only, loving it. Immediately wonderful reaction from people.
Yeah, that's nice.
So yeah.
Well, thank you to all those people that said that, and if you're listening now, hello.
And thank you for listening.
And thank you for listening. Yeah.
Yes.
What I also want to ask you about is primarily we know you for kind of work within pop music, but you were you went into musicals because you played Tony in Can't Smile Without You. And I was wondering, what are the different, opportunities and pressures that kind of working in that area compared to pop music?
Yeah, I've dabbled in quite a few musicals over the years. I've played Joseph, I've played Jesus in Godspell. I did the Can't Smile Without You thing. I also did another musical called McGregor's Trap at the Edinburgh Fringe a few years ago. And I've written my own musical as well, which is really, really fun. I loved that process.
What's your musical called? Sorry?
It's called The One.
Okay.
Yeah. It's not actually. Fun enough, we were ready to kind of get it, on a stage just before COVID. We had it all ready to go, and then it all kind of. I know, the worst timing ever. But all of the music actually is on my YouTube channel. If anyone's interested, Chesney Hawkes Official. There's all of the songs from the musical. I just released them all on YouTube. So yeah, if you're interested in hearing it there, but the different, it's an incredible difference, really. As far as writing, when you're writing a pop song, there are certain boundaries, within that box that you have to tick. There are exceptions, of course, but mainly, it's verse, chorus, middle 8. Chorus out, so that's kind of the thing, but with the musicals, you can take those songs and those song ideas, and you can morph them into other time signatures. You can take an up-tempo song and then make it into a ballad moment or a duet, or and you can change all sorts of things, which is really I love that. I absolutely loved kind of working out of the box a little bit. But actual performing in musicals, that is a stress, depending on what part you have, obviously. And I'm always, everything I've done so far in musical theatre is I've been the lead, and so you have a lot on your shoulders. The worst for that was playing Jesus in Godspell, because it's just like full on. You almost had to learn another language, and there's never a moment when Jesus is not on stage, and he kind of, it's all to do with his performance, and there's no, when you're acting, you normally you have this back and forth, you have to kind of react to people's lines, whereas with Jesus, like, you say your thing and people react to you. but
Yeah.
So yeah, that was full on, and a challenge. I like a challenge, and all the stuff that I've done in musical theatre have been challenging. For instance, that Barry Manilow musical, I had to. You had to play all the piano parts, and there was 30 odd songs in that. And he doesn't just play chords, his piano playing is sublime, and you had to learn it in 6 different keys because that's classic Barry Manilow. I don't know why I keep working with people that like to
challenge you.
Yeah,
exactly.
You do love the challenge, yeah.
So I'm gonna take something that's entirely different. Is you were in Panto, the TV show Panto with John Bishop. How did that go? Well, and I love the version of yourself that you were playing in that.
Yeah, well, I did Panto with John years and years ago at the Lowry in Manchester, before John was famous, and he wasn't even the top comic on the bill.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and he just started doing stand up and stuff. But so John and I, we were backstage, and just watching the madness unfold backstage at Panto. And I don't know if you've spent any time backstage at a Panto, but it's just funny. It is hilarious, I mean, just what you witness, And so he had this idea of doing a kind of office style, fly on the wall documentary type of thing about Panto, which I thought was a genius idea. And we were talking it through, and Darren Day was in the Panto with us, and a couple of other people, and he kind of like pitched the idea to all of us that maybe we'll do something, we'll do a little pilot while we're here, And so literally everyone was like, yeah, all right, So classic John Bishop, and John, this is absolutely why John has made it, I think, is his tenacity. He went off, he found, a little camera crew, wrote these kind of vague scripts because it was supposed to be kind of improv type of thing, so vague character assessments of what you were and stuff we are, and we filmed a thing backstage at the actual Panto. And I remember the producer at the time was like, you can't use anything of the out front, only backstage. She was being very kind of like, you couldn't, this is her world and you can't, but so we could, it would have made it a better thing actually if we were able to show out front as well, but we weren't allowed to. So we made this little thing, and John's made my character like this very funny kind of, it was like me coming to his dressing room saying, oh yeah, I've got this, can I play this little song? I don't mean to bother you, and I've got this new idea for a song. And he's like, he played this washed up kind of radio DJ type of thing, and he's like, I'm just, and I just kind of like bundled my way in, and I say, well, just have a listen, and I just love to know your opinions on it, And I start playing the song, and of course it's the melody to the one and only with different lyrics, and it's like, it's me playing, but mainly on his face, which is kind of like, yeah, it's catchy, it's like, anyway, so that never, we made that thing, and that never saw the light of day at all. In fact, that's another thing you could find on my YouTube channel, actually. And then of course, John tried to get somewhere on with it, but he wasn't, famous, and I don't know, it just kind of died a death, but he always kept it in his head. And of course, since then, his career went meteoric and stratospheric. And then, of course, ITV, BBC, Sky, everyone wants something out of John. And he said, well, I do have this little thing. And we ended up, doing it again. And but it wasn't like a documentary style. It ended up being more like a kind of a comedy drama. And Sheridan Smith was in it. And I played this very kind of funny, it was me, but like very clumsy me, he had me falling off of stages and stuff like that. It was very, very funny. And then it ended up on ITV at Christmas.
So from what I hear, We're not very good. We're not very good with Zoom. Sorry, we don't normally have to. We don't normally talk all over each other. Sorry. I was going to say, having listened, because I know you were saying about the podcast earlier, that having listened to the podcast that you do, the Ferguson Harrington Hawk, isn't it? Or Hawks. Sorry.
Yeah.
That's right. Get the guest name wrong.
Yeah, that's my last name, in case you didn't know.
Just in case, yeah. But yeah, you've covered on there that you actually are quite clumsy. So actually, your description then was you, wasn't it?
It kind of was me.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get away from it, but there's no way I can. Yeah,
No.
I am a clumsy bastard. There's no doubt about it. We actually had John as a guest on. We did it live at the Edinburgh Fringe, and John came on as a guest on one of those shows. It was great fun.
Yes. Yeah, I've literally sort of binge listened to all of them because so I am your number 2 fan.
Well, I like that you've done the research. That's nice.
Yeah, definitely. Also, just a bit of a twist on a question now. So, as an Englishman in LA, whoa, you know, like Englishman in LA. Whoa. Have you noticed many cultural differences between America and Britain?
Oh, so many. So many. I mean, there's the obvious things like the cultural reference points. You know, nobody knows what Only Fools and Horses is, and you know, stuff like that. Where you know you'll probably say, don't be such a plonker, Rodney, or something to someone, and then we're like, huh? Yeah. I don't know. This sports thing is weird. You know, I'm a big football man, and you know, you have to find the people that follow the premiership, you know,
the soccer,
soccer, where you have, that's the only way you can kind of, you know, talk football or whatever. But yeah, there's all sorts of different things, you know, between being here and living in England. There's a definite sense of humor that is very, very different. Like, you know, we like to kind of take the piss out of each other in a kind of loving way, you know. There's a lot of kind of more irony in England that sometimes goes over Americans' heads, but not because they're not funny. I mean, I've got so many amazing American friends that are hilarious and you know, totally get the English humor and stuff. But, you know, you do find that there's a little sense of humor bypass with some Americans, which I find kind of a little bit annoying, you know. You just find yourself kind of like, I don't know, editing yourself sometimes because, you know, my wife's American, fun enough. And so she, you know, I'll be at like the checkout at the local supermarket and I'll just say something silly and she's like, you just can't do that here, Ches. She'll like take it the wrong way and formal, you know, lodge a formal complaint or something. I don't know. It's funny, and I miss kind of like the green and pleasant land. You know, it is very, very different. It really is.
Yeah,
I bet you don't miss the freezing cold temperatures though.
No.
No, that is true. That is one great thing about living in Los Angeles is you're pretty much guaranteed sunshine.
Yes, yeah, because that's what I keep hearing about. What is this sun thing?
I know. Well, my friend Gary Clark, he said to me, never trust anywhere where the sun always shines.
Yes.
Take that as you will.
I mean, I was going to take it to that next level, but I won't. That'll be good. And also obviously, you're going to the fact that your wife is American. On the 4th of July, do you get locked out of the house? Because obviously it's Independence Day.
Because I'm a colonial, you mean?
Yeah.
No, they let me in, but I do kind of get I do the taking the piss moments, you know, which hopefully they get. It's like me when I go to the Super Bowl with, you know, friends over here, and I'm like, right, who's ready for the big handball game?
The room goes silent.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because I never understand why they call soccer Well, they don't call soccer football, because over here we call it like obviously football, and then we call it American football for the American version. Like they could just call
I think they should just change it to handball.
Yep. Yeah,
because that's what it is. They very rarely use their feet.
No, I think on both occasions, I think they should just be called Fawley Downey Sports.
Now that was spoken like a true bird.
I know. I can't stand football or sport in general, but
Fair enough.
I will be a girl. So obviously in your lifetime, well, most of it that I've got here, but not all of it.
He's not dead.
I know he's not dead.
Rumors of my demise have been greatly exaggerated.
However, on your tombstone, no, we won't joke about that because that isn't even funny. So no. So you've been worshipped on Big Brother,
I have, yeah.
Yeah, you've nearly took part in Dancing on Ice. You've done Celebrity MasterChef, played yourself on Hollyoaks, which is always probably a challenge. Performed with the England team. Obviously, that was in
Qatar, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm dyslexic as well, so I'm trying to remember how to say things at the same time. And most importantly, recently, you've bounced on a podcaster's bed at Michael McIntyre's big show. That's just recently aired. Yes. Well, I got two questions. Is there anything you can't do, first of all? And have you got any funny stories behind any of those experiences as well?
Well, my wife would definitely say I can't dance. So, hence why I've never been, associated with Strictly. But never say never. It would definitely be an arc.
Yeah. Although you did did near enough do Dancing on Ice until you broke your ankle, wasn't it?
I was good at the skating. I wasn't so good at the dance part.
Okay.
To be fair, I couldn't do either.
No.
It'd be two ankles with me.
Well, you would learn. It is amazing what you can do when you put your mind to things. One of the great things about taking on a challenge like this, like that, is you do get taught the most amazing things by the most amazing people. And Dancing on Ice was an incredible experience for me. I met some really fabulous people, like really, really salt of the earth, lovely people. And I include, Jane and Chris in that. They're really lovely. I got onto the ice and couldn't even move, and towards the end, when we were actually going to do the show, I was actually really good. I was like, lifting girls above my head whilst skating and twisting and jumping and stuff. I was like, this is crazy. I can't believe you can actually do this. But that's the beauty of it. You get taught these things. I did another show called The Games.
I remember that.
Where you learned like Olympic disciplines, like high diving for a good example. Like, when you first turn up for your first diving lesson, they make you go up to the 10-meter board, and all of us, we just kind of crawled along the diving board and kind of looked over the edge. It's like, there's no effing way I am even jumping off of that, let alone diving off of that. Are you kidding? And by the end of the 3 or 4 months, whatever it was, the training, you're doing inward tucks off a 10-meter board. It's just like, wow. It's astonishing what you can do if you really put yourself to something, and and if you do it every day, if you do something every day, you're going to get better at it, and that's what happened with all of these things. The skating is a great example of that, So yeah, I mean, there's also yes, I have probably a million stories. I just don't even know where to start with these things.
Well, that's with the recent thing. Obviously, you took part in Michael McIntyre's big show. So, what was that like? Because obviously that's I've forgotten what the segment's called, but it's like basically he wakes up somebody in the middle of the night and then just asks them loads of questions and has guests appear all of a sudden.
Yeah, it's called Midnight Game Show.
Oh, and that's it, yeah.
We surprised Chris Ramsey, who's a comedian and and podcaster, as you said. He does this podcast called Shagged, Married, Annoyed, which is brilliant, by the way. If any of your listeners want to check it out, it's really fun. It's just him and his wife. So Michael woke him up in the middle of the night, like 2:00 in the morning, and we're all there, like all sorts of weird. I've done it a couple of times actually, and it was on this one I had a hairy biker. I had a UFC champion. We had one of the girls, the dancers from Strictly. I can't remember who else was there, but and then 3 Darth Vaders.
Yes.
This very random bunch of weird kind of conglomeration of people, all kind of walking up the driveway and being really quiet with all the film crew and everything else. It's like, shh, everyone be quiet, because it's all done. It literally is done at 2 a.m, and then Michael bursts in on them, and then they do this kind of mad game show. And so I found myself, bouncing on the bed with Chris and Rosie Ramsey, which was great fun. I've stayed in contact with Chris. He's a lovely man.
Oh, and thankfully he'd put his trousers on by then as well, hadn't he? So
yeah, because I think that's one of the first things he said to Rosie was, "I can't believe you made me go to bed naked," because it was her that put them up to it.
Yeah.
Funny.
And I suppose also, is there any sort of shows that you would like to sort of take part in as well?
Oh, well, I just take everything that comes to me as it comes to me, really. Obviously people talk about the jungle. Possibly we'll see how that goes. I actually, I've thought about that one. I quite like Challenge Me, so we'll see. Strictly would be a real challenge, as I said, because I've definitely got 2 left feet. I would not be a winner.
Yeah.
I'd be more like Todd Carty in Dancing on Ice, I'd be a trier. I'd be very trying to whoever is my partner.
Again, I can understand. I'd have exactly the same problem. I don't think I think they'd probably just take one look at me after one attempt to go, nope, can't work with this one, out.
No, whenever I've done like musical theatre, like we talked about earlier on, every time I get to spend some time with the choreographer, but as we start in rehearsals, I always go up to them and say, look, you're gonna have your hands you're gonna have your hands cut out for this with me, so I'm just letting you know, it's not going to be easy with me. And always every single time they're like, oh, don't worry, we'll get this together, it'll be fine. And then when it actually comes to teaching me stuff, they're like, you weren't joking, were you? Every time. Like, no, I told you. That's it. Yeah. So God forbid.
And in the noughties, so obviously the noughties, you did a tour around different schools in the UK. One of those was actually my school. It's Budmouth Technology College in Weymouth, so Weymouth and Dorset. And unfortunately, I missed it because I had glandular fever. Everyone go, without kissing anyone.
I'm sure you're over it now.
No,
he's not. No,
no, I haven't got a soundtrack. I needed you guys to do it for me. No, so basically, I had glandular fever, but I'd never actually kissed anyone, so I don't know how I got it. So I got the kissing disease without
kissing.
No.
Osmosis.
Yeah, exactly. So I was also just wondering, like, what the visit was sort of in aid of, really.
Goodness me.
Sorry, passing you back to...
no, it's just like casting my mind back 20 years,
Yeah.
So, I had a record out at the time, and my manager was like, there's this thing called a schools tour, and you go around playing to school children, and you answer questions about the music industry, and you play a few songs, and then you be on your merry way. It was weird because I actually did it with another band. Like they were a real kind of like rock and roll kind of, drinking and staying out all night type of guys. And they had a band called Manor, I'll never forget. And then I did my little bit. And it was tough because they were so rock and roll. And of course we had to get up early every morning. Yeah. I had to drag them out of bed at like 9 a.m, just to get them to the school.
Yeah.
It was just the weirdest tour ever. I do remember that. And, and it was kind of like, travelodge to travelodge up and down the country, playing at 9 a.m. To a bunch of school kids. It's kind of an odd little moment in time that was, but I enjoyed it. It was really cool, and some of the questions were great, and it was, and the kids were young too. I think they were kind of like early teens, or early kind of maybe 11, 12, 13. So it was It was an interesting idea for a tour, and I think they still do it. I think that still happens.
Oh, that's a good thing then. I suppose it's good to sort of educate people, isn't it? Because like if there's sort of young people in that audience that are looking to sort of go down the line that you've done, you can sort of maybe answer a few of their questions or give them a few tips or whatever, or Yeah,
I guess so. And that's what I did completely. Yeah.
Yeah. And also, I saw that you performed in Cerne Abbas in order to raise money for your friend that was struggling with cancer.
Yes.
As well, yeah. So, well, I won't ask too much about that, if it's a sad subject. But I was going to say, how did it actually go? And also, the next time that you're in Dorset, if you want to just meet up with a cup of tea and a pint, I'm free. So
I was there last week. I was back in Cerne Abbas last week. Yeah, visiting my mate Vic, who you just talked about.
Oh, so good.
He owns the Cerne Abbas Brewery.
Okay.
So, so if you ever fancy a pint, that is the drop of the gods, the Cerne Abbas Brewery. They just entered to a camera competition, and they came first, second, and third. So that is how good their beer is. Yeah. They're amazing. It's incredible. So I did that show for them. It was such an amazing day. I literally performed in a barn, a huge barn. It was like 1,000 people there, whatever. And we raised a lot of money for Vic, and he managed to get himself a oxygen tent, and further his alternative treatment, which is still ongoing. And you'll be pleased to know he's doing well and in good spirits. And we're thinking about maybe doing another one next year for him. So watch this space.
Yes, absolutely. So don't worry, I'm not a scary stalker. But I think we're best friends now. We've been on a podcast together. So
I'll pop in next time I'm down to Cerne.
I'm sure my mum will make you a cup of tea. It'll be fine.
Because I think you also did university tours.
That was all the same time around.
I missed you.
Oh, you did. So did you have glandular fever as well? Is this
no. No, unfortunately, I was on the later intake, so I was doing a tour. It's when I was at Hull. I was at Hull University. I was doing a tour of the grounds, and one of your posters was up, and it was like, "Damn, wait a minute, Chesney Hawkes has been. I missed it."
I did a lot of them around that turn of the century kind of time, all through the noughties. I pretty much played every student union up and down the country. It was amazing. That was good times.
Yeah, and I'm hoping you got a very good reaction because
I did. Absolutely amazing. It was that was some of my funnest touring experiences. My brother's my drummer, and we were part of many a Survivor picture.
Oh yeah, I can definitely believe that, actually.
Oh yeah.
So, with regard to kind of like interaction with fans, what's been your most memorable interaction with fans, both positive and negative?
Oh, I mean, I've had everything you could possibly imagine. I remember one girl came up to me and flung her arms around my neck. I was in Covent Garden. He just literally came up to me and flung her arms around and said, "I thought you were dead." Thanks. So, I mean, I've had everything like that kind of stuff.
I mean, it's nice in a sense. At least they were.
Yeah,
I could see you.
Really know what to say, to be honest.
Sorry, that really tickled me. Yeah. Sorry.
With tears in her eyes. Yeah. No, that wasn't me. Perhaps you're thinking of someone else. I don't know. Yeah. But so many stories, so many things have happened over the years, and fans. People are funny, aren't they? Now it's the queer as folk, I guess.
No, very true. Exactly.
And have you ever, because obviously, when you were getting, you're in the business you're in, but have you personally ever been starstruck meeting people?
Yeah, it doesn't happen very often, but it has happened a couple of times. My worst experience of getting starstruck with someone was meeting Ben Folds. He's I don't know if you know who he is. In the band in the '90s called Ben Folds 5, and he's an incredible solo artist and one of my favorites ever. An amazing piano player and songwriter. A bit of an underground kind of, people, not everyone know him, but he's amazing. And if you don't, then you need to go and do a deep dive on Ben Folds.
Okay,
you're going to love it.
Yourself.
He's incredible. And so I was on a flight with my wife and kids from LA to Chicago, I think it was, and to go and visit my wife's parents. And he was on the flight, and of course I was all giggly, schoolgirly, and my wife was like, "Look at you! I've never seen you like this." I was like, "I know, but it's Ben's fault." And so I found myself standing in the queue in front of him, and I just turned around and I was like, I know this is really silly and crazy, but you've heard it a million times, and I know what it's like. And I kind of bumbled through to it, and I said, "Can I get a photo with you?" And so I've got a photo of me and Ben Folds somewhere. He was very, very nice.
Yeah.
Good.
You recently took a photo with Robbie Williams as well, didn't you?
Yeah, Rob and I go back years. I mean, they supported me in the early days.
There you go.
So, but I hadn't seen him for a while. He actually moved here to LA, and we saw each other a couple of times. But it had to be 15 years since I've seen him. We bumped into each other. Funnily enough, in Qatar again. He was playing there, and we just bumped into each other there, and we're like, right, that's it. Now we have to see each other. So we bumped into each other here in LA again, and we've stayed in contact. He's a good boy. Yeah.
What was the experience of Qatar like as well, by the way? Because we never really got onto that. So
it was amazing. I got to, I'm a big football fan, so I got to perform in a stadium for a start, which first time I've done that in 30 years, and got to meet all my heroes, get pictures with Phil Foden and Declan Rice and Jack Grealish, which was great, and I mean, it was an amazing experience. I'd never even attended a World Cup game before. So just to be there was incredible.
Yeah.
And out of interest, when you were saying about, it'd been the first time you performed in that kind of arena for a while. Do you still get fear when you do a performance?
Not really.
You still get you don't have the trepidation sort of panic beforehand.
Not really. It depends. The only time I get nervous is if I'm not comfortable with the sound, like if the sound check hasn't been great or whatever, and no. But these days, no, I just let's get on with it. What's the worst could happen? I mean, I've had everything possible happen on a stage at some point in my life, and I'm still alive. So it's only entertainment at the end of the day, and if people understand when things go wrong. And if you forget a few lyrics here and there, or you fall over, or your amp blows up, then you just make something of it and get on with it and have a laugh about it. That's it. What possibly could happen on a stage that is so worth you getting wound up so much so that you get sick? It's like, forget it. Just get out there and do it.
Yeah. Enjoy yourself. Yeah, definitely.
And that's it. You have to enjoy it. Yeah. If you're not enjoying it, then the people out there watching you are not going to be enjoying watching you, believe me.
No. Yeah, definitely. Sorry, I've also noticed that we've been rambling on for quite a while, and I do apologize.
Yeah, I do have to go, actually, guys. It's 10 past early, so I've got to go off and do my podcast, funnily enough.
Yeah,
I'm probably actually getting
sorry,
messages.
I got so carried away that I actually just looked over at the clock and I was like, oh crap, sorry. Can I ask
it's all good.
Yeah, can I ask a couple of listener questions, and then we move?
Yeah.
Is that
sure? Make them quick.
Okay, don't worry. I'll just ask the one then. So this is from Gary Azaro, and he's asking, I believe that at the time of Buddy's song, Roger Daltrey of The Who, obviously, was recorded as saying that he wanted the young Chesney to play him if they ever made a film of his life. Is that true? And if so, would you still consider playing an older version of Roger now?
I don't remember him saying that, funnily enough.
Okay.
but it's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I if that came up, then sure, I would definitely be interested. I don't think I look much like him, though. Is the only thing. It's like if you're playing someone that's historically famous, I feel like you need to look a bit like him. I don't know if I really I don't have the curly hair,
But if you can embody him, and
if I could embody Rog,
yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, of course. I mean, I love his vocals, and I mean, I'd love to try and that'd be fun recreating those early Who days, wouldn't it? Swinging the microphone around, and avoiding smashing guitars over your head and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, I'd love the challenge of that, but whether he still feels the same way, I don't know.
And if I can ask just one more question, because otherwise my mum might kill me. She wanted me to ask, how did you meet your wife? And if you want to tell us the story of how you met your wife very quickly.
It's kind of a not particularly interesting story. We met in a pub on the 4th of July in 1995. And for some reason, my wife and her very good friend decided to celebrate 4th of July, because they're American, in London.
Mm-hmm.
They decided to celebrate in this kind of crappy little pub in West London, and I was just there supporting my friend who was playing guitar, and it was literally him, my friend Miles, two men in flat caps and a Jack Russell, and then these two beautiful women, just American girls, walked in, and that was it. I mean, she was moved in within 2 months, and we've been together ever since, and yeah.
Oh, see, sometimes it's the simplest ways is the perfect ways.
Met in a pub.
Aye. Right, Chesney, we're going to let you go now. But before you do go, have you got anything that you would like to promote, or any social media or whatever like that?
I mean, I think we've covered everything, guys. So I've got a new album coming out this year soon, so look out for that. But if anybody's interested in coming to see me live or anything, or the podcast or whatever, just chesneyhawkes.com. That's the galactic central point for all things Chesney.
Okay, fantastic. Well, we're really sorry. I literally, like I said, I just looked at the clock and I went, "Oh crap!" I'm so sorry. So
it's all right. It's all good. I enjoyed it too and missed the time as well. So
thank you. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's my pleasure, guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Bye.
Have a good day.
Good luck, guys. Bye now.
Bye.
Oops, I forgot then. Oh, but never mind.
Should we kill the recorder?
No, I'm just going to take us out.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So
take us out. Take us out. Boom.
I'd like to just say a big apology to Ferguson Harrington of Ferguson Harrington Hawkes. If we did keep Chesney then for a little bit longer than we should have, sorry. But I really enjoyed that interview. So thank you ever so much for Chesney for being our guest this week. And he's such a lovely chap. And I'm sure he knows that anyway. But James, I think we've been talking enough Codswallop this week. I have been Gemma.
I definitely think we've been talking enough Codswallop. And the sad thing is we probably could have gone talking many more hours of Codswallop. I
think so, yeah.
But we took away from what he was supposed to be doing.
Yes.
But thank you again so much to him for being on. It has been a wonderful experience, and I would agree we have been talking of Codswallop for this one. I have been James.
Okay, and I've been Gemma. I guess we're switching the roles now, aren't we?
Keeps you on your toes, you see.
It does, even though I'd already done it. But yeah, that's fine. Right. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.